We are roughly 2 weeks out from the MLB Draft, and the Nationals, they hold the number one overall pick, as you all know. But as far as draft strategy goes, should the Washington Nationals try and draft for need, or should get the best player available?
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, I am your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11, and as well as our show page at LO_Nationals for all your latest Nationals news and notes. Be sure to check us out over on Twitter. And of course, look up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, and of course, the video version over on YouTube. Again, just search Locked On Nationals, and that is where you'll find your daily coverage of the Washington Nationals. And later on in today's show, the Nationals are still on the West Coast swing. They take on the Anaheim Angels tonight in Anaheim, a 9:38 first pitch. Weird kind of timing of it. I don't understand that. I'm already kind of out on it. So we'll have that preview for you later on in today's show. And in the second segment, we have got a Nats prospect stock report. It is a Friday. This is what we do on Fridays. We talk about prospects, talk about the Washington Nationals, and give you the latest individual performances on your top Nats prospects, whose stock is up and whose stock is down. We'll have that discussion for you later on. And also Travis Sykora, the Nationals' top prospect, was promoted to AA, and his numbers are just insane. We'll have that discussion later on as well. But we start off discussing the MLB Draft, as that is coming around the corner, and the Washington Nationals, they've got a big decision to make. So with that decision, should they draft for need, or should they go best player available? Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime, and download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So, the Washington Nationals have a huge decision to make on July 13th. That is when the first round of the MLB Draft is. And the question that we're trying to get to now, as we are roughly just about 2 weeks away from making that selection, is should the Washington Nationals draft for need in that number one slot? They should never draft for need. The Nationals, and really all teams out there, but really in particular, the Washington Nationals, should never draft for need. And it's a simple reason as this. You have to go with the top talent out there. Especially in today's lottery system, you don't get the number one overall pick every single year. If you are the worst team in baseball, you are not guaranteed that anymore. The new lottery rules, I hate it so much, but the Washington Nationals can't even pick inside the top 10 of next year's draft. That's how serious this thing is. So this year in particular, you have to go with the best player available. And that is what Mike Rizzo and the Washington Nationals, that's what they should do, and that's what they will likely do entering this year's draft. And we can debate all day long about whether or not Ethan Holliday is the best player, or maybe it's Cade Anderson, or maybe it's Liam Doyle, or Jamie Arnold. Eli Willits is in that conversation also. But the Nationals have to go with the best player possible. This team, and this organization, right now with where things are, what kind of faith do you have in this team going into this offseason? By the way, a year prior, or about a year out from a player lockout that is expected to happen in 2026 with the CBA, how confident are you in this ownership group really going out there and putting everything on the table and spending big in free agency? That's pretty unlikely at this point, if we're just being honest. The time to do that was this past offseason, and that was not the case. I don't expect them to happen and really do anything this offseason either. So, if you're in that category like the Cleveland Guardians, the Tampa Bay Rays, you build through the draft, and you build ultimately through your system by making these savvy moves and these savvy trades. And right now, the Nationals, they are going to put themselves in a situation where you can get, in your eyes, the best player in this draft class. we might be talking here today and thinking, well, we already have a shortstop. We have a shortstop of the future, so we're not going to take Ethan Holiday. That's never the conversation. And I think most people do understand that. But when you have a shortstop, think of it this way. What are like the accolades that really come with being a star shortstop in high school or even just in college? Number one, good athlete. Number two, probably pretty solid defensively. Number three, a leader. And number four, athletic. Those guys can move all around the diamond. And if you can play shortstop, I'm going to assume that you can play second base. I'm going to assume that you can play third base, and you can definitely play first base also. But then you get in the outfield discussion here. Guys like Ethan Holiday or Eli Willits, you could probably move them in the outfield and be a little flexible with where they develop. These guys, and really shortstops in particular, they can move around all over the diamond. I'm not worried about the position. And a lot of people, I see this, it's not everyone out there, but again, you see people and they're like, why would you draft a shortstop when you have CJ Abrams, who's going to be the future? Well, number one, the position does not matter. But number two, I love CJ Abrams, the bat. I'm not sure if he's going to be the shortstop of the future with the way things have been going defensively the past few seasons. Still up in the air, but there's a conversation to be had there moving forward. But right now, the Washington Nationals, they have to go best player available. And in their eyes, if I'm them, you also kind of have to look at yourself and say, well, can we develop a Ethan Holiday? Can we be patient enough and work on this guy's craft and make him the best hitter possible? Because Ethan Holiday is a great player, awesome player. He is likely the highest ceiling in this year's draft class. But also you have to ask yourself, can we develop him? Can this organization give him all the tools? And these are the hard conversations that I think Mike Rizzo and the rest of the front office are having behind closed doors at this point. Think to yourself about it. You have this new draft strategy, which they really went in on last season, where you took Siver King number 10, then you took Luke Dickerson in round 2, and he was really kind of your top talent that you took. I don't expect the Nationals to do that at number 1 this year. Again, this is not like the way the Orioles did it, where they lost every single year. They lost 100-plus games and 90-plus games year after year after year and got those top 3, top 2, and number 1 picks built up over time. You can't do that anymore. You can't just cut deals and, well, we're going to be bad next year, so we're going to have a top 3 pick. You can't do that anymore. I think right now, with the way that this new MLB Draft lottery is, you're going to kind of see that method go out the door a little bit. And if you pick later on in the draft, maybe you do use that method, and maybe that's fine for you. But if you're a bad organization picking at the top of the draft, you have to go the best player available. You're not going to spend enough to get yourself inside that top 10 of next year's draft lottery. In fact, that will not happen. They are not eligible to be inside the top 10 next year. So the Washington Nationals, you've got one shot at this, and you have to go with the best player available in your eyes. Do you have faith in Mike Rizzo and this organization in nailing that pick? Kind of. But also, I'd be lying if I said I fully trust them in what they pick at this point. In my eyes, the best player in this draft with the highest ceiling is Ethan Holiday. But that also is concerning in the fact that this is a high school bat, and the Nationals over the years, they've been very hit or miss on developing these guys. I think back to Brady House. Brady House, they've developed well. He seems to be doing the part. Then I look at Elijah Green. Elijah Green is in rookie ball right now. He has not been able to hit above 200 since he was in rookie ball. I look at guys like Carter Kieboom also, who was drafted out of high school. They could not develop him. These are real questions that you have to ask, and all of those guys, they were similar. They are very high prospects. They were very high on people's board, and they were first-round picks. Ethan Holiday, I think, is a lot more talented and a lot more safe than some of those guys in that scenario I just brought to you. But still, would that probably lean the Washington Nationals in a class that there's no slam dunk number 1 pick towards a college pitcher who's someone who might be a little bit more quicker to the bigs, a little bit less of a development process, and ultimately help this team maybe sometime next summer? I think they have to think about that. And if they do believe that Cade Anderson or a Liam Doyle is as good as an Ethan Holiday, then they should be in the conversation going number one overall. And honestly, it's been fascinating to see some of these mock drafts come out and having the Washington Nationals. Everyone is saying this. I saw one yesterday that the Nationals are still narrowing it down to 7 to 8 players for that number one overall pick. No one knows what direction they're going to go. And a few years ago, it was kind of the same with Paul Skeens and Dylan Cruz. And as time went by, people were saying it's going to be Paul Skeens. But right now, there really is no direction for this organization. No one knows where they're going to go. So right now, we're just trying to throw darts against the wall and maybe something will hit. But to kind of wrap up the question for today's program, yes, the Nationals have to go with the best player available. So no, they should not draft for need. And to answer that question, the Nationals, let's be honest, they've got needs everywhere. So you go best player available, and if you think it's Ethan Holiday, you take him. If you think it's Cade Anderson, you take him. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Next, let's give you a Nats prospect stock report, and also Washington Nationals, their top prospect is headed to AA. Only 2 more calls until he's a major leaguer. We'll have that discussion for you after we tell you about our friends at Gametime. And have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize that you want to be in the stands, and that's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. And with the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it all possible. And Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple, and prices on the app actually drop closer you get to first pitch. For instance, I always walk up to Nationals Park with no tickets. And when I'm on Half Street, I open up Gametime. I can see their Flash Zone deals and also the exclusive zone deals that they will be having for the FIFA World Cup in just a few years. But guys, baseball. You get to walk up to Gametime, see the views from your seats right on your phone before you purchase them to make sure there's no obstruction in any way, shape, or form, and it is just the best. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime and download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, I am your host, Ryan Clary. Again, catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11. Now we get into a Nats prospect stock report. Whose stock is up and whose stock is down? We start off, they stock up for Travis Sykora, who was literally just promoted to AA Harrisburg. And guys, this guy is a star. Again, kind of going back into this first segment, if you're thinking to yourself, the Nationals, they should not draft a pitcher because you got Travis Sykora and Harleen Susana and Jake Bennett down in the minors. No, you go with the pitcher. But regardless, the Nationals, you have a special talent, and this is someone who should be a top 10 prospect in all of baseball when it's all said and done. He is in most top 100 at this point, but Travis Sykora, enough with that. The numbers that he is putting up right now is simply special. Paul Skeens-esque numbers, Steven Strasburg type numbers. I'm not saying he's at the caliber of those guys, but he's a tier below it. And maybe you could discuss that he's on that tier with Paul Skeens, the type of prospect that he is. The numbers are absurd at this point. Over the season, he's got a 1 ERA. He's only given up 0.1 home runs per 9 innings over his career. He's given up 2 home runs, and he has not given up a home run all season long. In 29 2/3 innings pitched this season, in 6 starts at high A, he has a 0.674 whip, only 8 walks, a 1.21 ERA, 47 strikeouts. This guy is special. And he is 21 years old, just turned 21 years old like 2 months ago. And at this point in time, I've seen people talk about, well, he might not get promoted to AAA this year. That's wrong. If he continues to put up these numbers, he should fly through to AAA. And if he's putting up these numbers in the next 5 starts, let's say, and by mid-August, he is just mowing down AA hitters, get this guy to AAA. Because again, this time next season, he should be in the majors. And if he was a hitter, let's say, hitting every single day, being your star shortstop, he's putting up numbers like Jackson Holiday back in the day with the Norfolk Tides with Baltimore Orioles. Like, he is putting up absurd, ridiculous numbers that is by far and away the best in minor league baseball. Now, he is doing it at the lower levels. Can he do it as he gets higher? I think so. And even then, if you regress to the mean, what's his whip going to be? Like a 101? It's absurd what this guy is doing at this point. He is by far the Washington Nationals' top prospect, and he is by far the Nationals' top pitching prospect since Steven Strasburg. I think he's way better than Lucas Giolito, talent-wise. And you look back at him, he was a top 5 prospect in all of baseball. This guy is special. And yes, he lives up to the numbers that he has been putting up. And right now, at where the Nationals are, Travis Sykora, again, is by far and away your top prospect, future star, future all-star, Cy Young race, ace of the staff. He is untouchable in trade talks at this point in time. So stock up for Travis Sykora. The guy is unreal at this point in time. Stock down for last year's first-round pick, Siver King. Siver King is very talented. We knew this was going to be a process. Unfortunately, it's been tough for him over his last few weeks in AA. Really, over his last 9 games, he's batting .222 with a .317 OBP. No slug at all. They .650 OPS. He's got 10 strikeouts, only 8 hits in his last 9 games. Again, Siver King was always going to be a project. We knew the tools were there. We saw the high exit velos down at Wake Forest. And really, the Washington Nationals, they took a chance on him. But if you really kind of look at it, he was not a top 10 talent in last year's draft. He was projected to go in like the mid-20s, late 20s in that area. The Nationals cut a deal with him in order so they could get Luke Dickerson in that second round. And Luke Dickerson also made an appearance on this stock report that we'll get into later on in the show today. But partnering those two guys in this deal and for last year's draft class, it makes sense. Brad Ciolek is kind of the guy who's the brains behind the draft for the Nationals at this point. He comes from the Orioles background where they cut deals and they maximize their talent. And they got guys like Heston Kjerstad way back in the day at a top 3 pick. And not a lot of people expected him to be a top 3 pick. In fact, they thought he would go later on, maybe at like number 10 in that year's class. And it turns out that he was a stud. And he is a stud for the Orioles, still trying to figure things out in the major leagues. But that's kind of how the Orioles did it. And he's taken that philosophy. He's taken it with the Nationals. And now it's just up to the organization to see if they can develop him and see if they can get the tools in place and check all the boxes to make this guy a potential star, because he's got the talent. He's got all the tools you'd want. Great defender, great on the base pass, great character, good hitter, solid power at times, but he's got to put it all together eventually. And right now, just has not clicked. Stock up for Johanni Morales, a guy that we have been very high on. Started off slow in AAA when he got promoted nearly a month ago, but over his last 17 games, or over his last 9 games in that matter, he's got a 9-game hit streak, and in that span has 12 hits, 6 doubles with 6 walks. He's batting .324 with a .419 OBP, a .486 slug, and a .905 OPS. I love Johanni Morales. I have not given up on this guy. I think that he is a great hitter. I think he's going to hit up in the majors. The question really is how will his glove translate over to first base? And if the Nationals really believe in this kid, then I think that does affect the future of Nathaniel Lowe, because Johanni Morales is going to be a lot cheaper, number one. And number two, if he can do the same damage as Nathaniel Lowe can, then why not give him a chance? Because The thing that we always thought with Nathaniel Lowe was he was going to be a stud first baseman and great Gold Glove caliber defense. That has not been the case. And as far as his bat goes, he has had at times really nice stretches there, but ultimately overall, kind of underwhelming. And I'm not afraid to say it. I like Nathaniel Lowe, but if a team is calling and they want to give up some prospects for him, I'm willing to move off him. And it's really because of Johanni Morales. I like this kid. I think he's good. I think he has the talent, and I think he can play first base in the long haul for the Washington Nationals. So stock up for him, and that means there's a stock down coming for Luke Dickerson. Again, last year's second-round pick, one of the biggest draft bonuses in MLB history was given out to him in that second round. And over his last 17 games, and Freddie has not been the best of it for him. Batting 180 with a 548 OPS, only one home run, 6 RBIs. He does have 6 stolen bases with 2 doubles in there, but the power kind of has just gone out of nowhere. But here's the thing. He's a teenager. You're going to go through struggles. He came in ripping the baseball all over the yard for Fredericksburg. Had some major hits for them early on in his career, but he's kind of catching the summer blues a little bit. And as the weather is heating up, his numbers aren't. So Luke Dickerson right now on a little bit of a slow stretch, but nothing to be too worried about. Stock up, our final stock up for Robert Hassel III. I saw this one video the other day that he's kind of been tweaking his stance a little bit. And it seems as if he's got a much more, I would say, advanced approach to say. But like he has his toe tap now that I never really saw when he was up with the bigs and even before that. So he is making some tweaks in his swing. And, well, over his first 6 games back in AAA, it's worked. He's got 3 home runs. He's got 11 hits. 2 doubles, 5 walks, only 3 strikeouts, has a 1362 OPS. His batting average is now north of 300 in AAA. He's got an OPS north of 800. And again, I don't have to tell you about his defense. You all know he's a stud defensively, and Robert Hassel, he is getting it done at the offensive side of things right now. I've always liked Robert Hassel. I've always think that Robert Hassel has a pretty high ceiling, considering that he's had a lot of injuries over the years, and you may not have seen all the production at times, but when the guy is healthy and when he does kind of make these changes in his swings, then you see the results. This guy is a very good talent who has a little bit more power than what you would anticipate. And we saw that in Seattle, by the way, when he had his first big league home run, he crushed that baseball. So stock up for Robert Hassel. I think we could see him back in the bigs if you see Dalen Miles struggle over these next few games here, but we'll see what the Nationals decide to do. I think they're really high on him, and they want to see him get right over a long period of time. So ultimately, really impressive performance from Robert Hassel. So to wrap things up here, a stock up for Travis Sykora, stock down for Siver King, a stock up for Yo-Yo Morales, stock down for Luke Dickerson, and a stock up for Robert Hassel III. Next, let's preview this Angels series, the Washington Nationals. They take on the LA Angels. Kind of the Spider-Man meme a little bit here and there. So we'll have that discussion for you after this. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Tonight's game, 9:38 first pitch. Can we just talk about that real quick? I got to get with my guys over at Locked On Angels. Why do they do 9:38 first pitch, or I guess 6:38 their time? It makes no sense. Why don't you just do 9:40 or 6:40, whatever it is over there? It makes no sense. I know it's stupid. You might be thinking, just shut up and talk baseball. But did you guys see it on the MLB.com app? 6:38 first pitch. Why are you special? Just make it 6:40. Who cares about the time? I could be wrong. There might be something with that. Why they do it a 6:38 first pitch, but I just want it out there. I think it's dumb. So I guess I just don't like the Angels. But tonight's game, I like this matchup. This is a solid pitching matchup. You have got their ace of the staff, Jose Soriano, tonight against the Nationals' second best pitcher, Jake Irvin. This is going to be a fun game to watch. And the Angels, they just got to 40-40 on the year. And they're a fun, pesky team to watch managed by Ron Washington, who actually had a health scare here recently. Hopefully he's doing much better and can return to the clubhouse here relatively soon. But the Angels are a fun watch, and they are a solid, really solid team that, as we were talking about this Nats bullpen earlier on this season, the Angels bullpen was as bad. They have since turned things around. They've been stringing together some really nice quality wins against some really good opponents, and you're kind of starting to see this team kind of find itself a little bit. But in tonight's contest, I got to see Jake Irvin, man. I got to see Jake Irvin really kind of go in this game and do well. But that's not going to be the focal point of tonight's game, unfortunately, because Jake Irvin in his last 2 starts has delivered 2 pretty quality starts, going 5 1/3 in LA last week and 6 innings before that against the Rockies, only giving up 3 earned runs. But I got to see what the offense does today. The offense. Will they be able to give Jake Irvin run support, number one? And number two, can this team finally stop slumping and finally hit a team's ace? For heaven's sake, the last week against the Rockies, I know I keep going back to that series, but their aces who had 5.5 ERAs, you couldn't get 2 runs off them. Can you do that tonight against Jose Soriano, who is a very good pitcher? Really good, in fact. I would probably see him maybe getting traded at some point, but who knows what the Angels ultimately decide to do. They've kind of just been stuck in this mediocre mess for years. And you've seen them with Mike Trout, with Shohei Ohtani, and you still somehow cannot win baseball games. Shohei Ohtani has since left. Mike Trout, he's still with the Angels at this point. But what an exciting series, I think. Because again, the Washington Nationals, you got to win this. And in tomorrow's game, you've got Michael Soroka, who I've been really high on lately. But the key for him, keep the ball in the yard. Going up against Kyle Hendricks, who's actually crushed the Nationals in years past. But that's, again, a very different version of Kyle Hendricks, what we have seen. He's been solid this year at best, but I don't think anybody's expecting Kyle Hendricks to go 7 innings pitch of 1-run baseball. I don't think that's the expectation at this point in his career. And then you have Mitchell Parker going on Sunday. Again, Mitchell Parker, love the guy. Just not that sold on him right now. And you have Cade Cavalli down in the minors. We'll see what the Nationals ultimately decide to do. And seriously, genuinely, this might be Mitchell Parker's final start. And then you could see Cade Cavalli come up and take his place. So we'll see what the Nationals do this series. But again, all eyes will be on the Nationals offense and can they get the job done? We'll have that discussion for you on Monday and see if they do get the job done. But until then, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Have a good one. Go Nats.